Wet n Wild has a new skin tint with 5% niacinamide, and today I'm going to test it on my over 50 skin that is oily in the T-zone and pretty normal everywhere else. If you've been around on my channel for even just a little while, you probably already know that I love the Wet n Wild Tinted Hydrator. In fact, I love it so much that I've already used one up, and this is the second tube of it. So when this one came out, I was very interested to give it a try. This one's $5.47 on Amazon and $6.49 on the Wet n Wild website. It comes in 11 shades. This one is a little bit more expensive. It's $8.99 both on Amazon and on the Wet n Wild website, but it comes in 27 shades. So good job, Wet n Wild. Great to see that. It does come in one of those medicine dropper styles, which tends to make a mess. In fact, I may take one of the pumps that I have on my Maybelline Fit Me and put it on here if I really like this. So it is pretty liquidy. I'm going to put a little on my hand here just so you can see. It does run down my hand, and I'm hoping that this color isn't going to be too warm for me. I'm going to put it on as is, but if it is too warm, I may have to use my blue color corrector and cool it down a little bit. I have a lot on my hand. I was going to try and blend it in for you, but we're just going to do this. It does feel a little bit like putting on a moisturizer. And so that's what it looks like. I'll show you my two hands. Yeah, I think it did a pretty good job. If you look at the veining and the spots on that hand, the other one looks pretty much just like it, but it did cover that pretty well. While I put it on my face, I'll tell you some of the claims. I was going to do this with a primer on one side and not on the other, but I also want to do a sponge on one side and a brush on the other, and that's two variables. So I think what I'm going to do is just skip the primer today, and let's see how it does all by itself. And then tomorrow, whichever application method I like better, I will use that and then do the primer on one side and not on the other. And that I'm just going to have to update you in the comments on how that worked, because I'm going to be needing to edit this tomorrow so I can get it up. All right, that was a whole lot of blabber, and let's get this on my face. This is one dropper, and I'm going to be dipping out of there. Probably I'm not going to use that much. So I'm going to dab it on, and then using my sponge, blend it in on this side of my face. And while I do that, I will tell you about it. Wet n Wild says this is a sheer to medium buildable serum foundation. It contains 5% niacinamide, hyaluronic acid, and peony extract. No idea what peony extract does, but it's in there. The claims are that it is smoothing and blurs imperfections, gives a soft satin glow, conceals redness and blemishes, and it's almost undetectable on the skin. Okay, here is the side that I have put it on, and then the side with no foundation. And I would definitely say that this is sheer coverage with the sponge. And I really do want to take a look at it in my 10x mirror. I feel like it's sitting really nicely on my skin, that it's not like sitting on top of it, but that it feels like it has kind of melded with my skin. It doesn't look makeup-y. I have kind of a deep crease right here, and I don't see it sitting in there yet. It is not really pressed in well around my nose, and that might just be because I didn't press it in enough. So let's see if I can get that to look better. So I'm going to leave this here for now, but then we're going to see if we can build it up. So let's do the other side with a brush. This is an AOA Studio High Definition Brush F1. It's a very dense kind of kabuki brush, foundation brush. So I am going to, again, dab on and try to get about the same amount. I didn't count my spots, but I think I can kind of make it similar. And then go in with the brush and stipple it first to spread it. And generally you get better coverage with a brush. And then I'm going to buff. I don't like swiping foundation. I think that it tends to make more obvious brush marks if you do that. I think stippling, pouncing, and buffing gives a better coverage when you're using a liquid foundation. That did blend in really easily. Wow. Okay, so this is the side with the brush and the side with the sponge. I do feel like the brush side gave me better coverage, and it still has a really nice finish. I don't feel like the finish is different with the brush or the sponge, but I feel like I have better coverage over here. So now you can see I still have a lot on my palette. So I am going to try to build. Let's go through here where I have more redness, here around my mouth, and here around my nose. Okay. And back to the sponge. All right, what do we think? Now remember, this claimed to be smoothing, blurring, and to conceal redness and imperfections. I do feel like it has concealed pretty well. I still can kind of see this spot right here, but I don't feel like it's done much for blurring. Now, I can still see my pores pretty visibly, and so I'm not sure about that blurring claim. It does say that it's almost undetectable, and I really do feel like it doesn't look heavy or makeup-y. It also doesn't feel heavy, and it has dried down. All right, so now let's see if we can build up the brush side, how that works. And I'm just going to go right in on my palette with the brush. And I have a little redness above my eyebrow there. Make sure I get the middle of my chin and my nose when I do this half and half thing. Sometimes I end up with no foundation in the middle. All right. I think I like it better with the brush. I feel like it looks better around my nose here with the brush than it does with the sponge. And I feel like it gives a little bit more blurring. It has kind of a satiny finish. So anything that is kind of glowy will often emphasize any texture or pores that are there. But I think it looks really natural and really skin-like. And let's face it, we all have pores, we all have texture, and I don't know why we think we need to erase that. I am as guilty as the next person of wanting to do that, but at the same time, that's not what our skin looks like. So I think this looks really good, and I think it looks like skin. So what do you think? Which side do you like better? Again, here's the sponge, and here's the brush. I do think it built on itself very well. I think it looks good on my forehead. I don't feel like it's settling into lines. I have these little lines like right here, and sometimes foundation can kind of gather there. It is wanting to gather in this crease that I have right here. So I am actually going to take this sponge and just dab any extra out of those creases. Oh boy, it's also wanting to gather. You see this one? I don't usually have foundation that gathers there, guys. All right, let's see if we can buff it out a little bit more. Wow, it's settling it too under my eye here. Let me grab something I can touch my face with without making a mess. I always hate when people do this and you can't see what's happening, but I'm going to make a really funny face, come in really close, and look right here. Can you see how it's gathered under there? Wet n Wild. I was really excited about this. And it's doing it on the brush side too. Oh man. All right, I'm going to take this sponge and I'm going to dab over the brush side. I don't usually like putting my foundation on with the brush. So I think sponge is probably going to be the way that I go with this, but I wanted you to see it. However, I think I have too much product over here, so I want to dab some of it off. I'm going to use the bottom end of this that I didn't use, so there's no product at all on the part of the sponge I'm using. I just want to get rid of some of the excess. So I take back what I said about it building. I think it just got too heavy. I think that helped. I am going to put on some concealer and then I am going to powder. I always powder, so I'm not going to not do that with this one, and we'll see how it goes. But right now I'm not loving it immediately on my skin. So we'll see. Maybe it'll settle in, meld with my skin, be absolutely gorgeous all day long. Fingers crossed. Let's stick with Wet n Wild products, shall we? So I'm going to use the Wet n Wild Incognito Concealer. And I have been realizing that I've been using way too much concealer lately. one of those things, it's like concealer creep or foundation creep. You start out using just a little, and then you add a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Before you know it, you're using way too much. So I took the doe foot, dabbed my finger in it, and now I use that on both sides. And that's what I'm going to use to start with. I can always add more. It's just harder to get rid of it if you start out with too much. And then just dab to blend. And then I'm going to use my sponge just to make sure that I remove any excess. Powder I'm going to use is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Translucent Loose Setting Powder. I love this. I use it under my eyes and all over my face. I'm going to use this double-sided brush from Farrah that I got in an Ipsy. Make sure you tap out that concealer, even if it's only been a few seconds. It can crease, and if you powder those creases, you will just set them in. Not what we're wanting. And if you have crinkly, crepey skin like I do, it is helpful to use a puff of some sort and straighten out that skin so you can get the extra product out of the creases before you powder. I think that looks really nice. And then I'm going to go into the big end, and I dip in a little bit and then pounce it onto my palette like that. And you can see the powder flying up everywhere. But what this does is it helps push it into the brush so that when you go to put it on your face, it doesn't all just plop down right in the first place you set that brush. And I start in the middle of the face because that's where I get oiliest, and then work my way out. Now, what that has done is it has pretty much taken down the satiny look of that foundation, but I'm okay with that because it's also helped blur a little bit more, and I have plenty of natural oil and glow on my own, so I don't really want to start out with it. It will come through later as that powder kind of melds with my skin and the foundation and everything there. So right now, this is what my complexion looks like. And now I am really happy with it. I don't know that I would be able to use it on its own, but I don't use any foundation on its own. Tapping it out with a sponge to remove the excess product and then powdering it did a world of good for this foundation. So I am going to go and put on the rest of my makeup, and I will take us over into natural light, see what it looks like there. And then I'm going to do a 4-hour check-in and an 8 or 9 hour check-in and let you know how this held up for the day. All right, I am here in natural light in my kitchen, and I wanted to do it here before I went out in the bright sunshine so that you can see how my skin looks just in natural light, not with the bright sun shining on it. I feel like now it's been probably about an hour or better since I put this on, because I did record this eye look, and that will be coming up after this video. So if you want to make sure you see it, make sure you're subscribed, turn those notifications on, set them to all, and then you won't miss it when it comes up. Anyway, I think it looks good. I don't know how it's going to last, though. I'm going to have to reserve judgment on that one. We'll see. So I will take you outside, and then I have to eat and get to work, and I will check in at the 4 or 5 hour mark. All right, outside we go. Okay, it's definitely bright out here, so I am going to close my eyes and lift my face to the sun so you can see what this looks like. And I will not be able to pass judgment on it until I watch the video back because I can't see anything. But I can see my chin, and it's looking a little shiny. So I don't know if the rest of it looks that way, but we'll see. All right, it is about a 5 hour check-in here. I'm getting ready. I just got done with work, and I'm getting ready to go in and teach my dance class. And so I'm just sitting here out in the parking lot with this natural light. I thought this would be a great way to get a look at this foundation. And I apologize for not looking at you, but I have to look in the viewfinder to see what this looks like. I feel like it's really worn off on my nose. Now, to be fair, it was really cold at work today, and so that makes my nose run. So I have been blowing my nose a little bit, but I do feel like it's pretty worn off there. otherwise, I think it's doing pretty well. I do feel a little shiny, but I don't feel like greasy or like it's coming off on my hands or anything. And I don't think that it has continued to settle into my lines the way I was concerned that it might initially. So overall, it's not looking bad. I do look a little dewy, but I don't think that it has continued to degrade other than on my nose. So I am going to go ahead and put this up with my first impressions, and then tomorrow I will put it on with a primer and see if that helps hold it onto my face better, especially on my nose, and I'll just update that in a pinned comment. So I have to get to class, and I will update again a little bit later. I'll try to get to at least 8, but it'll probably be more like 9 hours. So I'll let you know what it looks like then. It's been about 9 hours since I put this makeup on, and so it's the end of the day. I need to take it off and get ready for bed, but I wanted to check in and let you know, see how it's held up. And honestly, not thrilled with it. However, it has worn off kind of evenly, if that makes sense, but I do look pretty shiny. I don't know that I look as shiny in person as I do actually in the viewfinder, but there's not much of this foundation left on my nose or on my chin at all. And if I come in really close, I think you can see lots of my redness through there and like over in here. The bronzer and the blush are actually still in place, so it has held up better on the sides of my face than it did through the center. And I guess one good thing about it is it didn't continue to like settle into lines and wrinkles. And it's not settled now because there's just not much of it left. Eyes, on the other hand, have held up remarkably well. And I know I didn't tell you anything about the eye makeup. Remember, that video is coming up after this one, so keep an eye out for it. If you look at my forehead, we are entering disco ball shine on the forehead, and it feels greasy. I mean, you can see my fingers. So normally I do not have this level of shine. Of course, I did nothing for touching up. I didn't blot, I didn't powder. And also remember, I did not use any primer. After I finished the rest of my makeup, I did put on the LA Girl setting spray. I don't think I actually told you guys that earlier. So while there was no primer, there was powder and there was setting spray. And first impressions are not that great. I believe this video is going to go up 2 days from now, so I should be able to get a full day wear test in with a primer and let you guys know if that affected the wear time at all. Right now, if I had to pick, this one still wins. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow after I use a primer. I did not know if I was going to have time to do this or not, but I am going to go ahead and try this foundation today with a primer, and I'm going to use the Catrice Oil Control Primer. It says it has Evermatte and willow bark extract. It's supposed to help mattify and control oil. And since I got so oily yesterday, I thought an oil control primer might be helpful. And like I said, I'm not really concerned with the whole blurring thing with the skin tint. It is not meant to be super high coverage, conceal everything, blur your pores, yada yada. But the coverage that it does give, I expect it to last all day. So I'm going to put that on and let it dry down just a little bit before I go in with the skin tint. I realized that I forgot to plug in my microphone, so hopefully the difference in audio between that little bit and what's coming next isn't too drastic. Anyway, I'm going to put it on with my fingers because when a formula is thin like this, a lot of it can get absorbed into the sponge or into the brush, and you don't get the coverage on your face. So we're going to try that, and I think that this primer has had time to sit. As you can see, I've already done my eyes. I used this little palette that I got from Temu, and it's actually not bad. It cracks me up, though, on the cover. It says, smooth and docile makeup. I don't know what non-docile makeup is, but I don't think I want it on my face. All right, so I am going to put a little on the back of my hand. I almost never do the back of my hand thing because I just feel like it wastes a lot of product. But for this one, we're going to go for it. And I'm just blending with my fingers. I am bringing it up under my eyes just a little bit. I will go in with concealer still, but I feel like it lays down a little bit of a base. I think you can get in these corners of your nose better with your fingers sometimes than you can with a sponge or a brush. I may end up dabbing with the sponge when I'm done with this, but we'll see. I didn't do my eyebrows because I can never figure out how not to get foundation in my eyebrows if I do them first. I'm not that careful. All right, so I used a whole pump on my hand, but I have a lot left. I think a half a pump of this probably would have been sufficient. I'm going to dab just a tiny little bit where I have a little bit of redness. And see if I can build that up just a little bit right through there. Now, if you remember yesterday, I had a little bit of trouble with it settling in these creases around my mouth, in this crease that I have here, and it didn't set well around my nose on the sponge side. The brush side actually looked better. So I am going to take a peek in my 10X and see what this looks like. All right, I'm going to let that dry down and do my concealer and my brows, and then I'll be back and we can take a look at this. Okay, I have checked the situation here and it does not look good. I've got this polka dot pore situation going on my nose. Can you see how you can see the little dots? And it's settling in creases right here. I know you won't be able to probably see that. You might be able to see the one here. I don't know, Wet n Wild. All right, so I'm going to take this dry sponge. Sometimes a dry sponge will absorb less product and leave you with more coverage, and see if I can pat out some of the excess product, because I do think when you rub it in with your fingers, it just doesn't want to meld as well with your skin. But I am really going to do everything I can to try to make this product work so that I know if it doesn't, at least I tried. Okay, good. That dry sponge did help. I think it looks better. I am getting a ton of glitter fallout from that eyeshadow, so I guess I'm just going to sparkle all day. Now, I am also going to powder this. I did it yesterday, and I am going to do so again today. Again, using the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Translucent Loose Powder. And I'm going to do it both under my eyes and all over my face. Honestly, right now, I think it looks pretty good. It is more matte than it was yesterday, and I did that on purpose because it didn't last very long. And it's not super high coverage. Didn't expect that, didn't want that. Today, I'm just going to be spending some time with my granddaughter, packing. I've got a little overnight trip I'm going on, and so I didn't need lots of coverage. Rest of the makeup is on. I went and looked at it in my bathroom lighting. It's a very snowy, kind of gray, dark day today, so the lighting is a little weird, but in my bathroom lighting, I actually think it looks pretty good. I am going to go ahead and spray it with my setting spray, same one I used yesterday. I didn't want to change too many variables. I like to just kind of dab and meld everything together. All right, I'll be back later to let you know how this goes. I'm actually really impressed with how this looks today. I think it looks much smoother, and I don't feel like I look as shiny. I feel like the coverage is better. So yeah, I'm actually hopeful that maybe this will do a better job today, because I do like the idea of a skin tint, something that's just lighter coverage, doesn't feel like much on your face, but I still want it to last all day. I will check back in later. Wear test day 2. It's been on for 6 hours, and I do not like it, Sam. I am. It's shiny. It's worn off again on my nose and through my cheeks. It's worn off on my chin, and maybe I'm just not a skin tint kind of person. If you have dry skin or more normal skin, you don't get as oily as I do, you might love this. It might be great for you. So I'm not saying it's a bad product. I'm just saying it does not work for me. Fortunately, at $8.99, it's very affordable, so I'm not out a lot for having tried it. But I'm going to be sticking with this one. Have any of you tried this out, and what was your experience with it? If you let us know down in the comment box how it worked for you, be sure to tell us your skin type, because that can make a world of difference in how well a foundation performs. If you got a little time to hang around, I'll put a couple videos for you to watch there. If not, I will see you in the next one. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Bye-bye.